We got some recent news this week about one of the teams we thought would be in the market for a new starting quarterback this offseason. Turns out that's not the case. The New England Patriots have re-signed Cam Newton to a one-year deal. It's worth $13.6 million when you add in about $6 million in incentives that he can reach based on performance. Newton last season with the Patriots, over 2,600 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Guys, we're going with, like we did last week, a last name policy, given that you're both Andrew. So, Posadas, I will go to you first. The New England Patriots, we think, lock up their starting quarterback again, a guy who was very up and down for the Patriots last year. What are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, this just kind of feels like, to me, it only furthers, my inclination that the Patriots won't be big spenders in this offseason and in free agency. If you're going to bring in Cam Newton, you're basically letting everyone else know, like, we don't, and nothing against Cam, but obviously the wear and tear and the amount of hits that he's taken and the style of football, that brand that he plays, being a run quarterback first, it's taken its toll. He's not the same guy. And I don't think he's a guy that you can win a Super Bowl with anymore, unless the situation is perfect and you have the best offensive line, the best running back in football, perhaps. But, that's a perfect case scenario that's unrealistic at this point and not conducive to what the Patriots do as far as spending is concerned. So the deal is a majority incentive based. So again, the Patriots are basically allowing Cam to make as much money as he wants to in this 1-year deal. So I think the Patriots are going to use Cam as a bridge, take this year to regroup, recoup. And I think going into next year's offseason, I think we'll see the Patriots definitely make a massive move as far as finding out who their next long-term quarterback is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's not puzzling because I think you could still draft a QB like right now because, again, you can act as, Cam, that more of that bridge quarterback if you wanted to. If you don't have the quarterback you love, you could start him too. I mean, like, that does add you the flexibility. The cap hit isn't big at all just because it's more incentive based, which definitely helps, that your quarterback is definitely on a below average deal. And it's just it's interesting because, Andrew, you're talking about how he didn't play well up and down, and it kind of, the hits took a toll on him. It's just like, I could definitely see that, but he didn't play with anybody either. I mean, you say you need the perfect situation. He had the worst situation last year with no-namers. And like, I don't really know, like the throwing talent definitely looked like it took a big dip, but was that just because of the receivers not getting open? We don't really know that. And it'll be interesting to see what he did in a second year offense. So again, I feel like it'll be interesting if they spend in free agency. As I said before, I could see Bill Belichick doing anything right now. He's just complete poker face. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And again, I feel like they need to add weapons. They just need to. And whoever the quarterback is, and we'll just see if they do it in free agency or the draft. But again, it's not a puzzling move because I think they added a QB team-friendly deal for the most part. But again, it doesn't really give your answer the question of QB of the future, but it allows them to with the draft.
It's interesting. You bring up the weapons, Andrew. Their leading receiver last year was Jacoby Myers. That's obviously no affront to Jacoby Myers. That's not going to get it done.
Firm.
I will say, yes. I'm not going to be able to get that out of my head now that you said that. Goodness me. But I will say the Patriots, if they want to spend, they could. They have over $60 million in cap space. The problem with the Patriots, aside from just the fact that they're not good, they have the oldest roster in the league. And you look at some of the other teams who have older rosters. Andrew, your Saints are up there, the Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Bucks, teams that are competing for a championship, or at least were last year. Not, teams that are going to be 6-10, 7-9, like where the Patriots were at the end of last season. I think Cam Newton probably still has something left in the tank because you watched him last year. He was good for the first 3 games of the season. He got COVID. He came back and he looked horrible, like a totally different quarterback. Now, I don't know if that was because of the virus or because he didn't have the time with his receivers because he was out of sync. I don't know what the exact reason was, but he was a totally different guy after that happened, it looked like. So I'll be interested to see how he comes back this year and if he is the starting quarterback for the Patriots, but I'll just throw this stat at you guys to continue this conversation. Among quarterbacks last season in rushing yards, only 2 had more rushing yards than Cam Newton: Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. One was the MVP, one was in the conversation for much of last year. So there is, I think, something there with Cam Newton, but this Patriots roster just has to be better, because the last couple of years I've been looking at this roster and I'm saying, how on earth are they hitting their salary cap floor? Because this roster just, at the skill positions, the line, wherever you want to look, it's just been really deficient. And I think that goes back, honestly, to Bill Belichick. I mean, he has to do a better job with the personnel, and we've made jokes about the dog in the draft room and handling things that way. But I think Bill Belichick has to do a better job building this roster, because they just have not done that very well the last few years.
Yeah, certainly. Bill Belichick has kind of done his best, Billy Bean impression, maybe just moneyballing it and trying to stay, above, but right there at the floor. I would say, though, Galata, I think this move is puzzling if you think that the Patriots are going to move up and get a Mac Jones and expect Cam to help groom Mac. Because at 31 years of age, and throughout last season, Cam has given no indications that he's looking to be a backup quarterback and be someone in the back half of his career. When you look at quarterbacks being protected now, Tom Brady's going to play till he's 55 years old. Cam is probably sitting back thinking, I have at least 8 years left where I could be viable if I can stay healthy. So I have to imagine if they go ahead and they move up and they get a Mac Jones, I can't see how that works out. I don't see Cam Newton saying, all right, I'm going to help this kid out while, playing, my last legs. I just don't see that happening at 31 years of age. If Cam thinks he has enough left in the tank, he's going to expend every option, exhaust all of his options to get a shot before he decides, all right, let me be the guy as a backup who can groom younger quarterbacks to be starters.
No, I mean, yeah, it would be interesting because Mac Jones is a guy. I don't think he's ready, though, year one, because I think Mac Jones, he plays in that perfect system in Alabama. Like, I think he needs to learn, like, the windows. And you saw it with Tua last year. The windows are much smaller in the NFL. And, like, Tua, he held onto the ball a lot, game manager. I'm expecting Mac Jones to probably be similar in that, just because guys are not going to be 5 yards open downfield. And maybe it'll be different. Maybe Mac Jones is different, but I just don't expect him to be a year one guy. And you only have Cam for 1 year. So maybe if Cam goes off, has a big year and gets paid somewhere else, I could definitely see that too, because it really just takes one good season. Like if he goes out, goes to the playoffs, I could definitely see another team giving him a multi-year deal. And then the Patriots, they just knowing what they do, they'd be definite to move on to, the young guy. I mean, they definitely, I could see them kind of be like, oh, we feel like Mac Jones is the guy, not Cam Newton. Like I could see them making that move, but just the Patriots going back to them, they have not drafted well either. Like everyone talks about Bill Belichick. I mean, you look at the last few years, they've drafted just terribly, and that falls on the coaches. And again, that's something they're going to have to get better at. And you look at the really good teams in the NFL, they draft well. It's usually they don't hit in free agency. I mean, they do, but it's more of let's get our core in the draft, and then we add some veteran pieces around that. I mean, just looking at, KC, they obviously drafted really well with Mahomes and getting Tyreek Hill and all those guys. Same with a team like the Colts, like the Saints. I mean, they draft well and then they add in free agency. And the Patriots, they've fallen off of that. And yes, they have all this cap space, but it starts in the draft. And you look at the last few years, like they were drafting 2 tight ends and all this weird stuff. Like, I mean, everyone could say Bill Belichick we trust, but I mean, you can't be like at a certain point, like you got to start hitting in the draft.
So the Patriots have a quarterback for next year. We'll see if it is their quarterback